Okay, we continue with Gems of Truth, Spiritual Wisdom from the Works of Jesus. And today we're looking at spiritual mastery. I was thinking of this idea this week, the difference between a spiritual master and spiritual mastery. And when I think of a spiritual master, I think of someone that's stepped over a line, stepped into a dimension of spiritual awareness that's perpetual. Someone who has made it, basically, has put the human behind them and lives from that awareness of their spiritual nature. And when a problem arises, they sort of smile and just kind of go through it, knowing that everything's working out just fine. So how many of you would consider yourselves, from that definition, a spiritual master? Nobody? Well, you're in the right place. So I started thinking about, well, what's the difference between that and spiritual mastery? Have you ever mastered something spiritually from a spiritual point of view? Have you ever been in a situation that was overpowering and you remembered some truth that allowed you to deal with it in a positive way? Has anybody ever had that experience? Now, wait a minute. More of you than that, surely. We all have, I think. You're forgetting. We've all had moments where we remembered what we know and we applied it. And so we mastered a situation spiritually, from a spiritual point of view. And basically what this means is that you got a handle on your emotions and you got a handle on your thought. That you were able to stop going down a negative path of self-destruction and put yourself on an optimistic trajectory where you maybe remembered that there's only one presence, one power, that you are an expression of God, that you are complete right now. You brought something that you know of the spiritual dimension into the situation that is your life, and you changed as the result of it. So I think we need to kind of eliminate this idea of my hope is to become someday a spiritual master. The only thing that we need to do is master spiritually whatever situation we're involved in right now. Because we can go a long time without really paying attention to that. We can read a lot of books without letting the information that we've learned kick in at the time when it's most important in our life. That's now, whatever it is we're going through. That's really kind of, in speaking of Mother's Day, and the feminine side of God. And some people have trouble with this thought that there is a masculine and feminine side to God. But it says that we were created in the image and after the likeness of God, male and female. Created he them, that's us. And we get kind of wrapped up in this whole idea. But it becomes simple if you just think of your intellectual side as the masculine, your intuitive side as the feminine. All of us have it. It's not man and woman. It's the way Spirit expresses, and it's the way it expresses through us. You have an intellectual side. Most of us spend most of our time in the intellectual side. But we have this intuitive side, and actually we spend probably more time utilizing that than we realize. Say you meet someone for the first time, and they tell you how great they are, or whatever. And you're going through this process of all your antennae are up. What is that? If you just believe in the intellectual side, you'd listen to the facts that they're giving you and you'd say, yes, I totally buy into this person, but there's something in you that doesn't sit right. And that's your intuitive side. That's one aspect. That's kind of the surface level of the intuitive side. But we're actually always employing this. We're always feeling our way through life. And we let that side get out of control. And that's where the intellect does come in. We stop and remind ourselves intellectually, stop going down this emotional path and listen to what your heart is really saying. When you first heard that there's only one presence, one power in the universe, and that's God, there's no evil, there's no power working against you, and you responded to that in a positive way, you'd probably never heard that before in your life, but why did you respond to that in a positive way? Because something in you knows that is true. That's the intuitive side. It's a deeper level of the intuitive process. And many people never get past the intellectual side of everything they were taught in church. They can't let go of that, all of the dogma and creeds and all the things that we have learned, and we don't necessarily want to throw that all out. But God is a presence. It's not a thing that we think about that is up in the sky someplace. It's a living presence, and that presence expresses and moves through us right now, and it's present right now. Spiritual mastery is about remembering that. It's remembering that you live in the fullness of God at this very moment. Fred brought up this morning about somebody that had committed suicide and the effect, the impact that has. Did any of you see the story of the Australian man that was 104 years old and had himself injected last Thursday, I think it was, to end his life? Well, that doesn't seem like such a bad thing. He was ready. He said, I get up in the morning, I eat, I sit, I eat, I sit some more, I eat, and then I go to bed. And he said, there's got to be more to it, basically, than that. So, to me, that's a wonderful thing. I know that it's a very controversial thing, but when the time comes, I would like to be able to do that, because I would like to plan that transition, that process. I don't think it's a bad thing at all. But when it's done unexpectedly, our emotions go out the window. It's just like, that's a horrible thing. But the truth is, there's only life. There's only one presence and one power. And when we allow ourselves to be taken down by appearances, that's an intellectual process, we're shutting off the intuitive side. We're shutting off what we know at the deepest level is true. We've lost our spiritual mastery at that moment. And I'm not saying that we just go through life with a pasted on smile all the time, because that's not what we do. We do laugh and we do cry and we do have positive and negative experiences and emotions. We lose it sometimes. But spiritual mastery is bringing it back. It's not asking, why did this happen? As much as, what am I going to do with this, with the knowledge I have? And so that's what we're talking about today. There's a story of Jesus who ran across a man blind from birth. This story has all kinds of things going on in it that we could focus on. I'm going to focus on just a couple today. As he went along, he saw a man blind from birth. His disciples asked him, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Jesus' response was, neither this man nor his parents sinned, but this happened so that the works of God might be displayed in him. So the story raises some questions. How could a man sin if he was born blind? When would he have had time? And so the reincarnationists say, well, that's your answer. He lived before and he's paying some price. He was born blind. So we're not going to get into that issue, because there's a more important issue here, one that Jesus points out. But this is the response that the disciples had, is the one most of us have. Something happens in our life. We say, why did this happen? What did I do to bring this on? When I was working with the cases on a national level, I was told by some of the people that that were under scrutiny, that they were accused wrongly. And so the committee would actually ask them, okay, you're accused wrongly, so what do you think you did to be accused wrongly? So there's no escape. That whole idea of consciousness, life as consciousness, can be a trap that's very difficult to get out of. So, okay, you did something wrong, or this wouldn't be happening, even though you're innocent. This is happening for some reason. You did something to bring this on. So how do you defend yourself from something like that? You have to make up a lie. I must have done something. I don't know. I must have thought negatively one day. I must have gotten out on the wrong side of the bed or something. Did something to bring this on. But to cut through all of that, Jesus says it doesn't matter who sinned, if it was the parents or the kid himself. That's not the problem. The thing that we have staring us in the face is the opportunity to comply with a principle that'll set him free. So, how did I get here? That's not as important a question as what am I doing right now? I call that present mind action, or many people call it present mind action. How are we using the faculties we have? How are we using the teachings, the understanding that we have gathered up to this point? Does it all just go out the window every time something happens that I don't understand? That's usually what happens initially. Something pops up we're not expecting and it knocks us over emotionally. I know everybody's experienced that. And sometimes it takes a while to get back in the groove, get back in an optimistic state of mind. When you get back in that optimistic state of mind, you stop asking the question, why did this happen, and start asking, now what? Now what do I do? And we add to that, with all of the knowledge I have of this spiritual level, if God is here in God's fullness and I am an expression of God right now, what do I do? What does an expression of God do in a case like this? Do I hide in a corner and shake? Or do I go out and confront the issue from a point of strength? That's where I want to get to, and that's where I will get to, because once the fog clears, I will remember that there is only one presence, one power, and I have everything I need to deal with this situation right now. It doesn't matter if the man sinned or his parents sinned. That's the wrong question. The right question is, how do I bring to bear what I know is true on this situation? So it's a pretty interesting story, and it's one that will remind you that you do not have to be a spiritual master, that is, reach a level once and for all where you've got it. It's all about remembering to practice spiritual mastery in whatever situation you're in. So we're talking about a couple of laws here that we often get messed up with. The law of attraction. The man or his parents must have done something to attract this condition of blindness. The law of attraction can work for or against us, but as I have pointed out, there's a higher law that we need to focus on. That's the law of expression. That is, who am I at this moment? How am I expressing? Because whatever the answer is to that, that's what is kicking in the law of attraction. So if I've been knocked off my spiritual feet, there for a time, I'm going to attract to myself reasons to justify that. So what I want to be aware of is the law of expression, the law of spiritual mastery. What do I do with this information that I have here? What do I do with this presentation? What you're doing is more important than what you have done. And I know that's also a controversial statement, but if you're talking about recovering from something, does it matter how long that's been going on? Or does it matter what you're doing with it now? You don't have to master the addiction so much once and for all as do it right now. Do it in this moment. One day at a time, as they say. Then you practice spiritual mastery. If you can keep yourself centered right now, you don't have to keep yourself centered for the next 10 minutes, just right now. Bring yourself back. Bring yourself into where you are. The only place you can be, that's this now moment. And that is truly spiritual mastery. Now you may say that spiritual master would not ever go where I'm at. They would never have to deal with this problem. Well, that may be true, but that's none of your business. You're here. You're you. This is your life. What that spiritual master may be doing, and I think we'd all be surprised the more you learn about individuals that are considered spiritual masters. Some of them aren't so great. We just hear about the great stuff. But they're not necessarily great people. But we don't care about that. That's not our problem. The question that we raise, am I practicing spiritual mastery right now? I'm here in my life right now. Am I doing what I need to do to stay in line with what I know is true? What I know I can be, what I know I can do. We struggle with the consequence of the sin of negative thinking and low visioning. The question, who sinned, does not resolve the issue. It only places blame. And you probably have noticed that. And it's important for us also to, along with this, to say, okay, what caused me to be in this kind of situation, as Freud would say, with monotonous regularity? Why would this thing keep popping up? Why would this state of mind keep popping up? It's not that we don't ask those questions. What am I doing to have this repeated experience? What am I doing to bring that kind of thing on? Why does it seem I'm always in this kind of situation? We're not ignoring that side. But the problem with doing that is it ends up being a lot of speculation. We can't really put our finger on why it is I'm reacting the way I am. Why it is I'm doing the things I'm doing. We can guess, we can blame our childhood, we can blame all kinds of things, and maybe they're all right. But the question is, does that make you stop doing the thing? Are you here now having a different experience than before? Are you ready to start interrupting these repeated tapes that are playing over and over and over again? It's like, can you accept yourself, as Revelation says, with a white stone with a name that's given to no one but you? Can you see yourself beginning your life anew right now? That all that you have brought with you up to this point, you can lay down. And you can begin to interface with your daily life in a different way. But you don't have to do it for the rest of your life. Just do it right now. Can you bring to bear the truth you know on the situation that you're in? It doesn't matter who sinned, if it was the man or if it was his parents. The fact is, we have a situation that needs a high vision. It needs all the knowledge you have from a spiritual point of view. Why do we spend hours reading spiritual books, inspirational books? What good is spiritual inspiration if you're not inspired now? If you can't bring it into this now moment where you live? That's what we want to do. We want to make this practical. We want to say, yes, this thing is frightening to me. This thing seems to be recurring. So is the way to solve it to hash over why it might have come here? It's like I have said many times, falling in a hole. You're down in the hole and you spend all your time saying, why am I here? What did I do to get here? What in my consciousness brought this whole experience of being in a hole? So you can focus on that, or you can get out of the hole. You can focus on, okay, I'm here in this hole, so now what? So you bring all of your wisdom to bear on that situation, and you will get out of the hole. It will allow you to rise out of that situation. I am totally convinced that every one of us in this room, I don't care how long you've been involved in this, that you know enough. You know everything you need to know to solve whatever problem you have in your life right now. You already have that knowledge. And we feel, well, emotionally, I don't feel I have it. So I'm going to run off and read another book and try to get the strength that I need. But when you read that book and you get inspired, what is actually happening is you're just being reminded of something you already know. All right? Generally. Yes, we learn new things. But inspiration so often is a reminder of what you already know. And we do need those reminders. So it's not like let's just throw everything out and just white knuckle it through whatever our situation, but let's bring ourselves up a little bit in terms of our own spiritual dignity. That we all know quite a bit about this stuff. We all know the relationship between our thinking and our life, our emotions and our life. We know that the quality of life, this thing we call the quality of life, is what is going on in the thought and the emotion. That when we talk about the world, making the world a better place, we're talking about making our thought and emotion more in line with what is true at the highest level. We're not talking about going out and changing the world outside of ourselves, although that a lot of people fall in that trap too. The world that we inhabit is the world of thought and emotion. Can I exercise some spiritual mastery over this world? And the answer is yes, I can. So you have something, and here's what we think. Well, I could do it if I had his problem or her problem, but my problem is different. I wish I was them. I wish I was somebody else, anybody but me. But you really don't wish that. You want to be you without the problem, right? You don't want to be somebody else. Because everybody has problems. I don't care who they are. It's just part of the experience of being here with a body. You want to be you with the ability to handle whatever your life throws at you. You want to exercise spiritual mastery. So the practice of spiritual mastery is just some reminders. God is absolute good, and I am an expression of God. That's where we start. One presence, one power. Foundation statement. It should be the foundation statement of every one of us. God is absolute good. What looks like is happening outside of me or in my life looks like it's evil. So stop saying that. Master that appearance. That it looks evil, but there is a greater good working behind and through it. Maybe that thing has to happen so the greater good can come forward. You just don't know how. Your intellect is busy trying to figure all that out. But God is absolute good, and I am an expression of God. So to say I'm an expression of God means I have everything God has. So I have everything necessary to solve this problem, to see the right way to handle this thing. It's where to start. We put God present. We bring God into our thinking. And we elevate ourselves to the spiritual being that we are. I am an expression of God. I have everything I need to see this correctly. Appearances are passing. The deeper reality of God is now shining forth. Appearances are passing. You know that's true. You know it's true because you've been in problems. You've had problems all your life, and there's been many times when you're having this problem and you thought, if this thing ever passes, I'll be happy the rest of my life. Finally, we'll get that solved and that'll be gone. I've had those things happen. You've had them happen. But those pass, but you'll get another one. Another one will come another time. It's not about getting rid of problems once and for all. Appearances are passing. So you look at this thing that's in your life now, and maybe you remember one that you had some other time and you thought would never end, but it did end. If you have to do that to get yourself in the state of mind that this too shall pass. This has come to pass. It's the nature of life. It flows. Nothing is here forever. Nothing is here permanently. So appearances are passing, and the deeper reality of God is now shining forth. Just get that vision. It's one you've had before. It's easy to get. You can do it again in the current situation. What happened in the past is not happening in the present. Where is the past? Where is the past? Is there a place, some place you could go and re-enter the past? It's perceptual. It's in our mind. So the past that you are fretting over, where is that? Is it a thing that has reality, that has substance? Or is it an inner experience that you might have control over? That you might be able to look at in a way that frees you? What happened in the past is not happening in the present unless you're making it. So that's a pretty strong statement. That I have something to say about what is going on in the present. I can stop asking the question, who sinned, this man or his parents? Because that doesn't get me anywhere. So what am I doing with what I have right now? That's the most important question. It doesn't matter where the situation came from. It only matters what I do with it now. So am I worrying? Am I using my energy to worry myself into powerlessness? Or am I saying I am an expression of God? The fullness of God is here now. And I see from a different point of view. This too shall pass. It's passing now. And what I mean by this is a mental emotional state I have total control over. I can practice spiritual mastery at this moment. I don't have to let this thing drag me down to the very bottom of my life, bottom of my experience. The present is my opportunity to display the works of God. I pull my attention from the appearance and center it in the truth I know. And that's really important because you know everything you need to know right now to deal with this thing from a spiritual perspective, to express spiritual mastery. So just think about whatever situation is you would like it to go away, you would like it to change. And apply these simple ideas. You're in the presence of God right now. You're an expression of God. This thing has come to pass. You can only be in this moment. What are you doing with that? The faculties of thought and emotion. Take a real good look at that. Then the present is your opportunity to display the works of God. I pull my attention from the appearance and center in the truth I know. It's just being mindful, spiritually mindful. That's, to me, what spiritual mastery is. All right. Thank you for coming out. Have a wonderful Mother's Day and whatever celebrations you engage in. I'm going to call my mother here pretty soon and wish her a good day. So thanks for coming out, and we'll see you next week.